Welcome to the Halifax Real Estate Podcast. I'm Jason Paul, a realtor in Halifax, Nova Scotia at eXp Realty, and I'm here to help you gain a better understanding of real estate in Halifax. Nick Davis is a mortgage broker at Premier Mortgages, and Nick's here today to break down the Smith Maneuver. It's a process that allows you to make your mortgage interest payments tax deductible while building your net worth. Please welcome Nick Davis. Hey Nick, how are you?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How's business?
It's going good. Typically December's slow, but mine's pretty quick this year, so can't complain much.
I mean, the market's hot.
Yeah. Exactly. What a mystery. What a surprise.
Right? So I guess today's topic is we're talking about the Smith Maneuver. But the first thing is I want to get into your mortgage broker at Premier Mortgages. So what made you want to become a mortgage broker?
Yeah, good question. I've been in the industry, worked at a bank for 9 years, was doing it forever, and just honestly had a lot of experience in sales, never really wanted to go to management. So I figured if I'm going to be in sales, I want to do it my way. Yeah. And been loving it so far. Get to work from home or the office, whichever I choose. And no complaints so far.
Are you making a lot of sales?
It's coming now. The first couple months were a little slow, but now it's starting to roll in, and really happy. I'm helping people, and just being able to work on my own terms really helps. Like if there's nothing to do on a Friday afternoon,
there's nothing to do.
Exactly, you know
that. So when we met up, when you first started getting into business in September, you had mentioned something called the Smith Maneuver and how it would be a good topic for the podcast. So what is the Smith Maneuver?
Yeah. So the Smith Maneuver, really, there's two different ways to go about doing it, but pretty much it's taking your mortgage or any secured credit, so any credit that you have secured against your property, and turning that into something that's tax deductible.
Okay.
And investing the funds for your future, retirement, other business ventures, whatever it happens to be. So, realistically, there's two ways to go about doing it. One, you can start up with as long as you have more than 20% equity in a property. The other one is a little bit harder to get started, but more of a simple process. So the first one, really, it's like I said, as long as you have more than 20% equity in your property and you're with a lender that you can get a home equity line, you can get started. Fairly simple stuff. What you do is every time a mortgage payment comes out, whatever the principal payment was of that, you pull out from your home equity line and put it directly into a non-registered investment account. From there, the interest from that home equity line is going to be tax deductible. And on top of that, historically, like a moderate portfolio is going to do much better than whatever the interest rate is on that line of credit. Yeah. So you're increasing your net worth, year over year, because you're making these contributions. It's growing faster than what interest you're paying. And on top of that, you're getting tax deductions on there too. Yeah. So it's a strategy that can really help you out long term when you're talking about retirement, or you're talking about maybe purchasing another house down the road, or any type of investment like that. With this strategy, obviously, there's a couple things you do want to consider. With risk, there's definitely a risk tolerance.
Yeah. Before we get into risk tolerance, there's a few things I want to pick out there, because
for sure,
you and I understand real estate lingo. Mm-hmm. We understand mortgage lingo, and we can speak about this stuff. But a lot of people, the average consumer of the podcast, maybe doesn't know what a home equity line of credit is. They might not know what a secure credit against the house is. They might even have a question regarding equity. Okay. So let's just keep it really simple. You bought a house, you put 20% down, which means you have 20% of the equity, right? Yeah. It means you own 20% of the asset for what its market value is. Yeah. Right? So I want to start this Smith Maneuver. What do I do next after realizing I have 20% ownership of this house?
Okay, so I'll probably backtrack a bit. It's got to be a bit more than 20 to get to start opening that home equity line. A lot of lenders, minimum it's going to be like 20% plus 5,000 more of equity to get started, or 10,000 more. So let's say we're at that point.
21%.
There we go. You have enough to get a home equity line. You would go to your bank.
Home equity line of credit?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go. I'll stop with the lingo.
The acronym HELOC.
Yeah. HELOC. We will say HELOC. You would go to your lender and say, I'd like to open a HELOC. Yeah. And for the most part, if you're under the right program, and you can talk to your mortgage broker for that.
I do appreciate shameless plugs.
Yeah, exactly. It's super simple. So you would get that set up, and then basically every time a mortgage payment goes through, whatever the mortgage amount goes down by, that is what the principal payment is.
So just for easy numbers, $200,000 house, we have $40,000 in equity, or
Yep.
41,000 for that, so nice 21%.
Yep.
Let's say your payments are just an easy round number, $1,000.
Yep.
That's what your payment goes down every month. So that's the number we can take out.
Well, no, because if your payment's $1,000, then some of that's going to be interest.
Okay.
So let's say these are random numbers, but
Yep.
let's say $600 goes towards principal, so paying down what you owe.
Yep.
And $400 goes towards interest.
Okay.
What would you do? What you would do is, from that payment, you would then, from your home equity line of credit, pull out $600.
Yep.
And invest it in a non-registered investment
Okay.
account. So, and so on and so forth. Every time a mortgage payment comes out, you'd pull more money from your line of credit and put it in the investment.
So just so I have this right, every time a payment comes out, you pull the $600. Do you pay? Let's just say we have our mortgage payment set up with our checkings account.
Mm-hmm.
Would that $1,000 come out, and you take the $600 from that, or do you make it come out of the line of credit and then take the $600 from the line of credit and put it into investment?
You'd have to take it from the line of credit and then put it in the investment, because you need to make it all tax deductible. It's got to be pretty clear where the money came from and what it went to.
Yeah.
So it went directly to an investment, so you can deduct that.
Okay. So instead of me making my mortgage payments of $600, I can just throw that into an investment.
That's what it ends up being, but
It's going to get more complicated. I'm just trying to make it simple, because I'm still trying to understand it.
So like basically you make your mortgage payment, and then you pull out, we're saying $600. You pull out $600 from your line of credit and put that into an investment.
Okay. So just once again, I'm very simple, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
So I've got my $41,000 off a $200,000 purchase, which is the 21% we talked about. I go to the bank for a line of credit, HELOC. You said it comes down to a specific product. How do you get a home equity line of credit from your bank?
It depends on the lender. You need to have one that can have a home equity line with the mortgage as well. There are plenty of lenders that do that.
Yeah.
So that's a very simple process. Often you don't even need to do another application or anything, as long as you have the available equity and you've been approved for that amount. You can just kind of walk in and sign some papers, and then it takes a couple of days and it gets set up.
And just for anyone that doesn't understand how a HELOC works, a HELOC is it's a line of credit on the value of your home. Is it not, or is it the equity in your home?
It's a line of credit that you can have based on the equity of your home.
Yep.
Your mortgage, basically all the debt under your home can't go over 80% in this scenario.
Yep.
So like, you could have a mortgage that takes up 60% and a line of credit that takes up 20% of your
debt.
Yeah. Of the house's value.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just for everyone at home who might be having these questions, right? Because you and I understand this stuff pretty simply.
Yeah.
Now, okay, getting back down to the Smith maneuver.
Yep.
So we've set up a line of credit for, let's say we have 41%, so we've set up a line of credit for 40%.
Well, let's just say it's $10,000.
Okay, $10,000. Really simple.
Yeah.
$10,000 line of credit, $1,000 payment, $400 goes to interest, $600 out.
Yep.
So it means I have to set up. Does that mean I have to change where my mortgage payment comes out of and make it come out of the line of credit?
No. So the mortgage payment's going to come from your checking account still.
Yep.
And then you're going to manually, some you can get it automatic, but manually pull out from your line of credit, then chuck it into your checking account or the investment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So, and the reason why we're doing that is because...
Well, it's because like the mortgage payment has to be made no matter what.
Of course.
Right? And then what you're doing is you're pretty much keeping your debt level the exact same. So you make $1,000 payment, your mortgage goes down by $600 because some was interest, some was down on the principal. And then... So technically, just after that, you're $600 less in debt than you were before.
Yeah.
But what you're going to do is you're going to go to that line of credit and pull that $600
and put it in an investment.
Put it into an investment. So you still owe the same amount of money on your house.
Yeah.
It's just at this point, it's now $600 less on the mortgage, $600 more on the home equity line.
Yeah.
But you also have $600 in an investment account.
Okay. Now, the reason, what's the benefit of doing all this work?
That's a good question. It sounds a little complex. The benefit is over time, it's going to increase your net worth as long as you need to stick to it in this scenario.
Yeah.
You really do, because if you bow out and pull it out with investments or anything, it really could derail the whole system. But really what the benefit is you pull that $600 out to go into an investment.
Yeah. Keeping your debt the same.
Yes. And then hypothetically, which there's plenty of history showing, if you put it into at least a moderate portfolio, that money in the investment is going to grow faster than your mortgage interest and your home equity line interest. That's just what happens or what has happened in the past, right?
Yeah.
So now you have money growing in an investment account faster than your accruing interest or having to pay interest.
Yeah.
So right there, that's going to increase your net worth. But
because you're taking it. So let's just say, for instance, if let's say we're on a fixed mortgage. No, we can't do it. You can't take a HELOC on a fixed mortgage, right?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a HELOC on a fixed, and we have a mortgage on a fixed.
Yep.
600 out from checking.
Yep.
600 into an investment account off of the HELOC.
Mm-hmm.
Keep my debt the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the investment, if I do it right, I should be able to make a quicker return than I would on the interest payments of the other two.
Yeah, I wouldn't say quicker. I'd say it's more of a long term, but
Okay.
a larger return.
A larger
than what
return.
The interest is going to be.
Yeah.
Because you look at mortgage rates, typically right now range from 1.5 to 2.9.
Yeah.
And lines of HELOCs, I should say, you're looking at prime plus 1, prime plus a half, something like that. So 2.95 to 3.45. Moderately invested portfolio, you're looking roughly about 5.5 to 6%.
Yeah.
So right there,
Huge. You're already making You're already making more money back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because if you're do the math, at a HELOC of let's say 3.5, and you're getting 6 back on your interest, well then you're already beating your payment by 2.5%.
Yeah, and really where this becomes a bit more intricate and smart is the interest you're paying from the HELOC is now tax deductible because you've withdrawn it for investment purposes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's where it really helps you out because especially if you're at a higher tax bracket, then that's a really big savings. Like you're saving 40% of that 3.5 that you're paying. Or
yeah, of course.
Having said that, you are paying tax on the investment side, but if your portfolio is structured properly, you're getting paid in dividends and capital gains that you get taxed less than just straight income or something like that.
If you incorporate the business.
No, not necessarily. No.
Okay.
So it's just individuals can do it. You would just invest in a non-registered account, and depending on if it's mutual funds or stocks, it can still be structured in a way that the income or the gains you're getting are tax efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's really like a subject that like a financial planner would really get into it, that you definitely want to sit down with a financial planner to talk about this stuff. But it's just basically your investment returns are going to be tax efficient and the money you're using to invest is tax deductible.
I mean, that sounds delightful.
Yeah, exactly. Accountants love this.
Okay. So basically what you're saying is, I'm always going to go back to the main example so everyone can stay on track.
Yeah.
Payment comes out $1,000, 400 interest, 600 from checking account for the principal, which is your actual mortgage payment, paying down your debt. You take $600 from your line of HELOC, your home equity line of credit, and put that into a non-registered investment fund.
Yep.
The tax from the HELOC is now tax deductible, or the interest. Sorry, the interest. Yeah. Sorry.
We've used tax and interest a lot in this 5 minutes here. So.
The interest from your HELOC that you would pay on that $600 is now tax deductible.
Yeah.
So now you're making the money back.
Yeah.
So you're getting a $600, you're putting $600 into a non-registered investment that grows, that returns at, let's say 5% conservatively.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, maybe a 6, 7, 8.
Yep.
But then the money you're actually paying to use that $600 from the HELOC is now tax deductible, which means you'll get it back on your tax returns.
Exactly. Or it'll lower the amount of taxes you have to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sounds delightful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if someone has 21% or 22% of their home value,
Let's say 20 plus $10,000. That's roughly what you need to start.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they could ideally, or potentially do this maneuver for themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
There are there's a lot of considerations involved though. Like you do want to talk to your accountant before you get involved with this. You want to talk to a good financial planner, and you really want to understand the risks of leveraging, because like at the end of the day, this does sound good and it is good, but you need to stick to it and you need to have long-term goals for it, because at the end of the day, you're borrowing money to invest. So the risk is a bit higher, because if, let's say you don't have a long-term strategy and you're just trying to do this for a year and it's
day trading.
Yeah. Or it's just you're in a mutual fund, but it's a really bad year.
Yeah.
And you're down 10%. Well, you paid interest, even if it's tax deductible, you still paid interest on the money that you took out and lost on. And if you withdraw it, then you actually lose it. So you need to have some risk tolerance about you and understand there's going to be bad years, and also have a bit of a long-term strategy in mind where like, yes, it's going to be down, but that's fine. I'm not going to touch it for 5 years. So it'll go up over time.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to be able to ride the waves of the market, because most people, as we know amongst our friends who get into the stock market, look at it every day, and they feel the emotional turmoil, the up and down.
Yeah.
Right. So when you say that, yes, the Smith maneuver is a great way to grow an investment portfolio over time. It's not for something to make a quick buck.
No, not at all. Like you could make a quick buck, but there's not really any financial planners around that are going to let you go do a leverage trade like that if you're saying, this is only for a month, man. Like it just doesn't, it's not, I think prudence the word. I think prudence is the right word. It's not a prudent thing to do. It's a long-term strategy to increase your net worth.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with carrying debt. You have to be comfortable with that and understanding that your portfolio, it's not just going to be 6% every year, because that's just not how it works.
No.
It'll average out to something similar to that, but you have to understand that there's going to be waves in there, and really stick to it.
So, okay, if it's not short-term play, what are the benefits of what have you seen as benefits of a long-term strategy where you've implemented the Smith maneuver in place to see financial rewards? Like, what are we talking about here for rewards here?
Yeah, so just quick examples would be if someone let's say there's someone who doesn't quite have enough saved for retirement.
Yep.
And they're okay with their mortgage payment pretty well staying the same because we're carrying the same amount of debt. It's a way to really create more money for them to save.
Okay.
Right. Especially, when you look at kind of a net worth standpoint, the house is increasing in value.
Yep.
Your investments are increasing in value.
Yep.
Faster than the interest you're paying in that. So you are really increasing your net worth a lot when you're doing this over a long time. And like I said, especially if someone needs to catch up on retirement. Yeah. Because that, like in this example, we're just inventing a $600
payment.
Payment there, or it's savings a month that, that return is pretty much like free. Right? Like the gains are pretty well free. So.
Yeah, because you're taking. It's funny because your debt. It's funny how you say your debt just stays the same as long as you manage the debt correctly. Yeah. Right. As long as you're not tapping into that HELOC every second day, never $600, never $600, because you can only use it as leverage to use the debt that's already being created from the original mortgage loan. Yeah. Right. And that strategy is the only way, I assume, you can make that tax, the interest tax deductible, because it's off of the debt that you're using to invest. Yeah, exactly. Like you got to be strict with it and just do it for that specific purpose. Yeah. Like there are other ways, and don't really need to go too much off track of making interest tax deductible, but like under this circumstance, yeah. And like realistically, you got to be ready to not tap into that specific line of credit, because then, your accountant will hate you. Because trying to calculate how much interest you paid on just the withdrawals for investments versus when you had to repair your car, you had to do this and you had to do that, right? Yeah. So you got to be really strict about it. And the main thing is not to freak out when investment returns are down. Yeah. Plain and simple. Or if interest rates go up, right? And well, they're both inevitable. Yeah, exactly. But not to freak out, right? And you got to really have a close relationship with your financial planner, or be really on top of it by yourself, because it's really not something you want to do on a whim and go like, oh yeah, this is great, and then
next year you want to, let's say, put a down payment on another house with that, but investment returns are down 10%. So then like you did all this, but you just lost money over this time, right? So it's really the long-term thing. Like I said, like someone needs to save for retirement, they can't quite do it, or and really any long-term savings goal, right?
Now here's a question. When you say long-term savings goal, right? Because some people think 3 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Some people think 5. When you say long-term savings goal, what numbers do you have in your head for someone to use this strategy successfully over a long period of time?
Typically in the investment world, you think 5+ years is long-term.
Okay.
So I'd say that usually.
Okay. It's relatively quicker than, like obviously when you say long term, I was thinking, oh man, are we waiting 10, 15, 20? But it's not such a steep rate on return as long as you are disciplined.
Yeah, exactly. And really it should be longer than 5 years.
Yeah.
15 years, you're really going to see a big impact of that. But just from my kind of past experience and past jobs, 5+ is considered long term. But the longer, the better there.
That's just investments.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of waiting on it and that.
Right.
And the real takeaway with this is you got to be strict with yourself, and you
have to listen. It's also working with a financial advisor and your accountant. Like those are my big takeaways, that you have to surround yourself with people who can help you facilitate this maneuver to the best of its ability.
Yeah, and especially the financial planner side, because they're pretty much psychologists for investors for the most part, like talking them out of things, and don't withdraw right now, it's fine, things like that, and taking care of that. And I just personally, for me, some people are fine doing their own investments, but if I was left to my own accord to do all this stuff, I'd think about it way too much and maybe freak out, maybe go way too intense. It's really good to have that kind of
buffer.
Yeah, someone to look at your situation and be like, okay, well, let's trace you back to your financial goals. Let's trace it back to here. Okay, maybe we don't go super aggressive on the investments. Maybe we're doing moderate.
Maybe we don't need to go to Vegas this year. Maybe.
Yeah. The actual thing I'm talking about is to withdraw all the money from your house and we go to the casino and we hope for the best, right? That's what we're getting at, right?
Exactly. Not the Halifax one, because they have the worst odds in Atlantic Canada.
Okay, we'll go to Moncton.
Okay, now that is basically the Smith maneuver in its most fundamental method, right? You said that there's 2 ways to execute this strategy.
Yeah. There's another one that it takes more of a net worth. The first situation, that's something that
the average home buyer can use.
Yeah. Especially if someone only put 5 or 10% down, but it was 3 years ago in Halifax, they've got 30. They own 30%.
You're probably fine now.
They have decent amount of equity, but the other one would be kind of someone who's more established but hasn't necessarily planned all this out.
Okay.
So I'll kind of use a very, very simplified example. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got, let's say, a mortgage for $200,000.
Okay.
On your primary residence. So it's just kind of a straight up mortgage on your home. And you've also got a non-registered investment account. I can go into what that is in a bit if you want, but
we're going to go into that. Don't worry.
For the exact same amount. I realize this scenario is way simplified, but it's just easier to do it this way. So under this scenario, you would go, okay, well, you withdraw the money from the non-registered account, and there's tax considerations that we can talk about. Pay off the mortgage in whole. So you have no mortgage and no investments on day 2. And then on day 3, you refinance the mortgage.
Take out the whole 200K.
Take out the 200K.
In a HELOC?
No. That can be in a mortgage.
Okay,
in this scenario.
Cool.
Or a HELOC, whatever you want to do. But mortgage, you get a lower rate.
Yeah.
And then take that money and drop it into that same investment account. Invest it the same way if you want. So pretty well under this scenario, if you don't think about tax, you are in the exact same boat as you were 3 days ago.
Yeah.
But because you withdrew the money, you did that refinancing, and you borrowed that money in the shape of a mortgage to invest, your mortgage has all of a sudden become tax deductible.
There's a kicker.
Yeah. It's a really good strategy. And that one, you have to be you have to have more of a net worth, plain and simple, for it to make sense.
Of course.
But technically you're still leveraging, there's still an element of risk involved. But if you think of it logically, you're in the same place you were before, except for your mortgage is tax deductible at that point. So it's a pretty cool little strategy there.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, if I have the investments, or it'd be investments because you need it from a non-registered investment fund, right? So if I have the investments I've created over a few years, I can then take all that out with the tax implications of there. We'll get to that. Pay off my $200K mortgage, and then how does the Smith maneuver make it the interest tax deductible?
Because in Canada, and I'm not an accountant, so accountants are better to really ask about this stuff, but in Canada, if you borrow money to invest it, the interest is tax deductible.
Oh, simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like that's like literally, if you Google that, Investopedia will say that. I think they'll have the Canadian stuff on there. Either way, like you'll get some sort of really popular website that will completely state that.
Yeah.
So it's not a mystery.
Okay.
It's just there's a lot of people out there who have that situation. They don't think about it. They don't think about, oh, okay, wow, like why isn't my mortgage tax deductible?
Yeah.
But realistically, if you could deduct all the interest you pay, it's ideal, right? It's you're paying less interest.
Yeah. I'm just thinking now, because like I'm actually just thinking of Smith maneuver 1, the first example, versus Smith maneuver 2.
Yeah.
And I like 2 more, but you need more net worth.
Exactly, right? 1 is more so like the first example, well, the first strategy, let's say, that's more so to create net worth.
That's to create wealth.
Yeah, it's you don't have enough savings right now, you want to increase your net worth. It's a way to do it. It's a leveraging play to do that.
Yeah.
The second is just tax and interest efficiency. It's just being efficient with your money. Like you have these things. Why aren't they working together? Let's make them work together.
Yeah. And I get it. It's just funny because like I would like my mortgage to be tax deductible.
100%. You pay interest, you might as well do something with it. Right?
But you do need to be able to pay off the mortgage with the entire it doesn't have to be a non-registered.
Yeah. So technically you could have cash. You could pull money to pay out the mortgage with whatever
tool,
whatever it is. But when you refinance and reinvest that, it has to be in a non-registered account.
Okay.
Because you don't get tax deductions to invest in an RSP. Well, to deposit it, you do.
Yeah.
You don't get deductions on the interest for that because the government already has it's already.
Yeah, that's the kicker though, right? Because for Smith maneuver 2, the example is that, let's just say for really easy numbers, $200K in the non-registered investment portfolio, pay off the house, immediately refinance or get your take out of a mortgage and put that straight back into the non-registered investment portfolio. Yeah. And now that's considered an investment. So now your mortgage is tax deductible and you're just paying no interest on that debt. Actually, you're getting paid off the interest of that debt.
Yeah.
It's getting taken off of your taxes that you owe at the end of the year.
Exactly. Like you are paying interest still, but that, I don't know, what's the mortgage rate going to be, like 2.5%, let's say.
Yeah.
That's tax deductible. So typically people in this scenario, their tax rate is about 40%, right?
Yeah.
So,
that $600 you were in the first example, that $600 paid, that $1,000 payment you're paying, the $600 for the actual payment itself of the debt, and then the $400 in interest, you're actually using that to be tax deductible come tax filing season.
Yeah, well, the tax deduction in the first example would be the interest you're paying on the home equity line. So on that $600 that you're pulling, times 26 if you're doing biweekly, that amount, the 3.5% interest, that's deductible.
Yeah.
Under the second example, it's that that whole interest payment of the mortgage.
And that's what I was trying to get to, is that the whole interest payment of that mortgage on the second example suddenly becomes tax deductible.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So it that can be huge for a lot of people that like have done a really good job building up, like just saving money to build up the investments and just had a mortgage because that's just what they've always had. And they get this piece of advice. you got to double check with accountants to, look at everything and your financial planner and everything. And you want to get pre-approved to be able to refinance before you go and do this. And then
call your broker.
Yeah. Call your mortgage broker. It's Nick David. You want to make sure everything's good because you don't want to pull your investments, pay off your mortgage, and then not be able to do it.
Yeah.
You do your checks and balances. And then it's just, as long as there's not a crazy capital gain on that initial withdrawal, it's often a no-brainer because yes, it's still a leveraged trade technically, but if we think, past compliance, let's say, and look logically,
yeah.
You're doing the same thing. You just can deduct.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those people that do have that net worth stored away somewhere, and you have a mortgage, you can look at this as an option to actually get your tax back or your interest payments back.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah. Like you'd be able to deduct it, so you'd get a decent little return.
Yeah, of course.
Return on that. Yeah.
Which and we all love our returns.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's how this Smith maneuver works versus step one for the average homeowner.
Yeah.
So that way they can take the HELOC and use that into a non-registered investment portfolio to build net worth mainly for retirement down the road.
Yeah, if we're talking long-term strategies,
we're not talking like become a millionaire in a day. We're talking.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what you got to do. That'd be the casino example. It wouldn't be a good call.
Unless you hit red.
Exactly. 00.
And then the other side, for the people that actually have the net worth, it's a great way to turn your house into another asset for you. Because then you have an asset class on two categories in terms of the equity gains in the market, which are just, we both know what they're doing in the market right now, but as well as making your interest payments, you get a lower return on them rather than just losing that to the market, to the payments.
Exactly. It's just tweaking your interest. And what it ends up being is, it's pretty well the equivalent of, and these are random numbers I'm throwing out, it's not a calculation, but instead of, it ends up washing out, instead of like from paying 2.5% interest, it's all of a sudden, because of the deductions and stuff, it's 2.1%, let's say.
Yeah.
So you're just getting a bit of that interest back, more or less.
Yeah. So the people that, like you said, 3 years ago, people that bought in 2018 or 2019, because the market's done a lot since 2019, they probably own more than hopefully 20% of their equity. They probably do with the new home value, with appraisals going and stuff. So they should maybe be calling you.
Maybe, yeah. If it's a strategy that they need, right?
Yeah.
And like, there are plenty of reasons for refinances anyways. Like there's a lot of people in Halifax right now that I think don't really know what they're sitting on right now. And maybe they got laughed away from a bank or a broker or whatever it was 5 years ago, trying to even consolidate their debt, right?
Yeah.
Because they just couldn't approve for it because their house was worth $250, but now all of a sudden they've done nothing and their house was worth $350, and probably now there's things to do. Like, in terms of an actual, like, to do the Smith maneuver, it's realistically, obviously a mortgage broker needs to be involved with that to get you in the right programs and stuff. But I'd say it's more so a conversation to have with a financial planner first. I'll be honest with you, to figure out, like, is this the right move for you? Because that's really the first step. For me, I'm more so, I can get it done.
Yeah. You can do it because the equity's there usually now. If someone bought in 2020, it might not be yet, but wait till spring.
Get 3 comparables in the neighborhood. We'll be fine. But it is crazy nowadays, like in Halifax, and like I said, even whether it's for investment purposes or trying to pull out to buy another house or to consolidate debt, people are sitting on a lot of equity that I don't think they know about. And like, you would know better than me the house values, right?
And a lot of people also don't even understand what a refi is.
Yeah.
They don't understand how they can, and we've talked about that on past episodes of the show, of how important it is to understand what you can do with your equity. But a lot of people don't even understand they actually have equity in the bank that they can play with, because most people just think, oh, I bought this at 200. Now they're selling it, for your example, 350. That means when I sell, I can make $150,000 worth of profit. When in reality, it's like, well, no, you can put this money to work now and still own the house. You don't actually have to offload the asset to access that capital. There's a lot of different ways to access that capital.
Yeah, exactly. And in a nutshell, like, as long as you can approve for it, can always borrow up to 80% of what your house is currently worth.
How do you get approved for it?
Mortgage application, pretty similar to doing a new purchase. They take into account your credit, your income,
debt
your debt ratios, and the house itself.
Yeah.
And then you play ball, right?
Wouldn't they send an appraiser out?
It really depends. Like, you need a full appraisal in some situations. In other situations, they can do a desktop appraisal, or I think the official term is AVM, but it's just basically...
It's a desktop appraisal. We know what it is.
Yeah. They're on the computer and the value makes sense. Often, if it's in the HRM, what we're seeing more is desktop appraisals.
Yeah, because it's funny, like we talk about home values right now, and it's like, I love it when someone says that home isn't worth what they're selling it for, and go, wait a day. Yeah. Just wait a day.
Yeah,
the sale will come up, or the comp will come up, and you'll see and be like, oh, well, now it definitely is worth it, right? It's funny what the market's being able to do, but it's also being able to understand the power of, because people think home ownership is just a way to not rent. Mm-hmm. When in reality, being and building equity allows you to do stuff like the Smith maneuver. Yeah. At a fundamental level for option 1, which is to build net worth. If you have a lot of net worth, option 2 allows you to create a tax deductible income. Mm-hmm. And then, but like even understanding a simple refinance or taking out a home equity line of credit, even at a 3.5 interest rate, like that's 80% of the new home's value. So $200K mortgage, $350,000 value, you can take up to 80% out. Yeah. That's a lot of money to take out. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no capital gains on that, right?
No. It's your primary residence, and you're not selling it. Yeah. Even if it was a rental, you're not selling it at that point. You're just pulling equity out.
Exactly.
Right?
So
that's a huge win, and like a lot of people, that's a huge win as a whole, not having to deal with that. But like also, what I come across a lot and what I have in the past is when people are, even if they know what a refinance is, people who, let's say, have a lot of unsecured debt, so credit cards, lines of credit, even a car loan that's not unsecured, but a car loan and stuff, higher interest debt, and a lot of equity in their property. So they own a lot of their property, especially now with the values. And some people are a little apprehensive about doing that refinance to consolidate the debt or something like that, because they don't want to have a mortgage forever. But at the end of the day, what people should probably shift in thinking is, I owe all this money, whether it's a credit card, line of credit, mortgage, whatever. Let's do it in the cheapest way possible. And what's the cheapest interest rate unless you're buying a brand new car at 0%? It's a mortgage, right? So that's something that I come across a lot with refinances. It's like, you're right, a lot of people don't necessarily understand it, but then even if they do, a lot of the times they're apprehensive because in their head they have this mindset of, let's pay it. I don't want a mortgage.
I was going to say, most people have it in their head where it's like, I don't want to make a mortgage payment anymore. I want to be done with paying for the place I live, because then that extra $800, $900, $1,000, whatever comes out of your bank account, I can use to maybe just enjoy my life a little more. But in reality, it's like, because correct me if I'm wrong, when you refinance, it doesn't increase your mortgage payments.
Well, it does. You've got a new mortgage, right? Yeah. Like, so it depends what you do, right? If you do it all under one big mortgage, then it depends on how long you amortize it. So how long it's set to be paid off, like 25 years, 30 years. You can often, if you're deep into the mortgage, you can probably keep the payments the same. Yeah. But that's kind of a case by case thing. But overall, like, especially like I brought this up earlier, like if you're doing like a debt consolidation, like someone who has like
a bunch of other debts associated.
Your chances are, even if your mortgage payment goes up, your overall payments are going down. It's just that mental block of like, I want to be mortgage free. And a lot of people have that. I don't blame them. It's something that's been ingrained in us for a long time. Yep. But at the end of the day, debt is debt, so you might as well borrow it the cheapest way.
I know so many people that live off debt. Oh yeah. And it's like, and the more debt they have, the better, because they use those leveraging tools, right? Mm-hmm. It's funny how like the different ways you can view money. People look at real estate. Mm-hmm. My favorite thing I love talking to a client about is the average home buyer now moves once every 7 years, right? That's the average statistics. They take out a 30-year mortgage or a 25-year mortgage, whatever it is. They're like, I'm paying $500. I'm have to write an offer, $100,000 over asking. So for example, $200,000 purchase, $100,000 over asking, $400,000 house. I go, you're not actually paying $400,000 unless you live in the house 25 years. You can get a 5% down. Oh, well, then I have to take on the CMHC payments or the Sage Gen payments. Well, it's like $6,000 a year and it's built into your mortgage. So you don't have to worry about that anyway. Your mortgage payments might be an extra little bit per month. Yeah. But in reality, you're paying a 5% down. 5% down of $400,000 is 20. Math. 20,000 plus your closing costs is 20. Let's say 25,000 probably. $25,000. If you live in it for 7 years, let's make it really easy numbers. $1,000 monthly payment, which it'll be a little more because for that mortgage. But so 1,000 times 12 is 12,000 times 5 is 60 times add another 2. So you're looking at 74,000.
Yeah.
Plus your initial 25%, 20K down with your $5,000, you're in for $100K. That worked out way more simply than I was supposed to.
Well, no, like I think really what your example, you just think about the incremental, like the extra $100,000 that you're paying on the house doesn't actually, it's brutal to look at, but it doesn't actually equal, like, I don't know, that changes the mortgage payment by like maybe $300 a month, that extra $100,000. Right. So it's like, it wasn't really 100,000. The
example I was trying to say with this example, I was trying to say is people get so caught up in the list price or the purchase price, in that you're only paying that if you live in the house for 25 years. Real estate is, I've said this before too, real estate is the only asset class that I know of that you can pay 5% of the price and get 100% of the asset, and leveraging that 100% of the asset down the road through a refinance. Yeah. Right. I always say to people, imagine if you could buy Apple stock at 5%. Would you not? Yeah. Like, imagine if you could buy Tesla stock at 5%. So you're buying in 2008.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And like understanding what they can, so when we talk about like people want to get out of the mortgage payments or just alleviating debt, well, that debt, and this was the other caveat of it, when you're paying 5% down, the bank's finding there are 95% of you to have the asset. They're giving you so much money for you to get your name and just get your toes in the market, make the gains in the market, and come out the back end on a better scale rather than for renting per se.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I think a lot of people have a lot of misconception about real estate and mortgages is that it's actually, if you look at it historically, they're good things to have because of what you can do with them because you own an asset or land, right? And that's another thing with the Smith maneuver is just understanding how asset classes work and understanding what you can do with it. It's just another option, whether it's right for you or wrong for you. Talk to your financial advisor.
Yeah, exactly. it's
just another option of what you can do with it, right? Same thing as a BRRRR or another investment strategy you can use in real estate.
Exactly. Debt consolidation or, pulling out to buy another rental property if you're a rental tycoon, like anything really. Like, as long as you're not refinancing to go buy a couple ATVs and go on a bunch of trips, like
Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, like as long as you're making good decisions with it, like you're right about that. Like a house can really help you out down the road, especially like just where we are in Halifax. Like, what was the market increase 10% last year and 20% this year, or something ridiculous like that?
I have the stats somewhere written down. I know
20.7. But like either way, like
in the last year,
I think so.
Then people who bought in 2020 have 20% home value.
There we go. We're good. But like, it's just like, especially in a scenario like this, like people who even just put 5% down, like I'm honestly in that boat. We bought in 2018. We put 5% down, scraped together a down payment for something, and complete luck. This is not me being some
savant
wizard. Yeah, no, like this is complete luck. And now I have more than 20% equity in my place probably, but it was complete luck and just got in at the right time, right? So yeah, real estate's always good for that. And you're right. I like that take that you just had where it's like there's more than just it's more than just a loan to not have a rent payment and just pay rent to the bank.
Yeah,
it's a lot more than that. And I think what it comes down to is you're borrowing against an asset that's increasing in value.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it comes down to. To bring it back to the Smith maneuver, have you worked with someone yet that's put the Smith maneuver into play, or have you seen it personally firsthand with someone?
Yeah, not as a broker, but back when I was at the bank, definitely did. I worked with a couple of people doing the first method there where they're pulling it out. It's a little stressful on the financial planner, but some people are really into it and know what they're doing, and they pretty much just want to review it once in a while and then they're good.
Yeah.
Others, it's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it's down to the financial planner to be like, hey, like this is. At the end of the day, the customer can do whatever they want, but to really be like, this is not right for you, or this is something you can explore.
Yeah.
It
depends. I imagine it depends on their spending history.
Yeah, there's that. And just the risk tolerance is a big one, and actually knowing it. Because like a lot of people, when they first go to invest money, they can say, oh yeah, I got high risk tolerance, I'm fine. Well, you don't know that. You're looking at graphs and stuff saying, oh yeah, I'd be fine if my 10,000 went down to 9,000. I'd be fine with that.
And then it does.
Yeah. And then you would withdraw at that. And then that ruins the whole thing. You paid interest, you lost money in your investments, and that's just ruined it all, right? That didn't really happen with me, but you gotta, I lost my train of thought there, but you gotta, it's on to the financial planner to really tell like who fits there, and then give them the option, and then they got to make the decision. I've seen in the past, in terms of like, I've referred off to kind of the wealth management partners for the second thing, because I was in the branch. So someone with more of a net worth, often it would be a referral to wealth management, and they can typically handle it better too and take care of it. But the second scenario where they do the big flip and that, there's a lot of considerations with the capital gains when you're doing the withdrawal, because like you could have a big gain that take a hit the first year, let's say, in taxes, but over time it's going to make sense. And I've seen that work too, and it's that one's pretty like at the end of the day, someone who has a large non-registered investment portfolio and a mortgage they can pay off and stuff, probably going to be fine no matter what.
Yeah.
But that's like, if you're a bit of like a financial services nerd, it's a bit of a cooler one, because it's like, wow, we just created something in 3 days. Like we just somehow did this weird strategy that is completely by the book, and
now our mortgage interest payments are tax deductible.
Exactly. So it's definitely things you see. The second one is also much less like, there's less upkeep to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
because,
of course.
like, it's not something you have to keep doing. It's just something that gets done and then it's done. And
like you literally do it where you're like the first maneuver, like you're doing it every month or every bi-weekly, whenever your payments come out, you're making the choice to take that money out of your HELOC and put it into your your investment portfolio, right? Yeah. Whereas the second maneuver, it's you call up and say, hey, move this money to this. I'm going to take out a mortgage and then put that money back here.
Yeah.
And then you're done. And you don't have to think about it twice.
Exactly.
Because nothing's really changed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, by all means, it's still technically leveraging. You'll have to sign a bunch of papers with whoever you're investing with saying that you understand the risks of leveraging. But if we think of it logically, once again, it's, if you looked at your statement, your investment statement, your whole thing with the mortgages and investment on day one, and then the next month, it's going to look the same. It's all going to be the same. It's just, come tax time, you'll
have you seen both ways in play in your time?
Yeah. Like I said, like I never handled the second one in person, but I definitely referred off to people to handle that.
Yeah. Because I imagine you need a bit of nuance about how it actually works to be able to pull off this strategy.
Well, yeah, and also just like once you get to people who are that affluent to be able to go and do that, chances are, like I was never one to take care of a customer if I wasn't the best possible person to do it. I would refer to a partner, because like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, why would you try to handle something that you just shouldn't be doing?
Tell a realtor that.
Yeah. Exactly. First sale, an $8 million home. So the second one, I definitely kind of helped facilitate, but never really was the main advisor on it. But I find it cooler, but it's that's just a bit of nerdiness there.
Yeah. So, okay, before we get out of here, you mentioned you can talk a bit about the tax, the non-refundable tax for the investment portfolio. So what do you know about that?
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, once again, not a tax expert and all that, but I have a bit of knowledge of this. It's just, so basically, if you're investing in a non-registered account, that just pretty much means it's not a tax-free savings account. It's not an RRSP.
Okay.
Not an RESP or anything that anything with an acronym that the government gave that they help you out on taxes anyways.
Yeah.
It's an investment account where you can still have the same investments, mutual funds, stocks, bonds, cash, GICs, whatever it is. But government monitors that you pay tax on your gains on that, right?
Yeah.
So having said that, your planner is going to pick the right investments for you that would pay out dividends, that would pay out capital gains rather than interest income, because interest income gets taxed, at the full tax rate. But And interest income would be like a GIC, for instance. But your planner would set you up with, something that pays you capital gains and dividends. So it's going to be preferred on that. In terms of like the considerations before going and hauling out 200 grand from there, you want to see what gains, what unrealized gains you have there. So like if you, let's say, put in 150 and there was a ridiculous year, which this probably won't happen. And it went up to 200 grand and then you withdraw it. Well, then there's going to be some gains in there and there's going to be tax consequences that first year.
Yeah.
Something like that, it may not be worth it to do it, or maybe it would be worth it because the long term it's going to really help you out, right?
Yeah.
And that's just really the consideration you want to do, and you want to have a good accountant or financial planner to really look at that stuff and make sure you're making the right decision.
Yeah, it's just like it's just gathering information knows what product works for you best in whatever situation, which is all these tools are, right? The Smith maneuver might not work if you're looking for a return in 2 years.
Yeah.
The Smith maneuver might not work if your capital gains on your non-registered investment portfolio is too large to pay off the house in cash.
Yeah, well, yeah, or you do it and then you just owe the CRA a ton of money afterwards. It doesn't, the tax deduction from the mortgage over time just doesn't make sense. Let's say it would take 10 years to make it back up, and then it's like,
do I really need to do this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nick, man, that's all I've got so far for this topic. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure. I love talking about it. And, all I say is, with this, you really want to make sure it's good for you and make sure you're approved for everything before you do it.
Yeah, please check with people and don't just quote us.
Yeah.
Financial advisors, mortgage brokers, Nick is one, and surround yourself with people. And if you need home values, obviously call a realtor. Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon, Nikki.
See ya.
Bye. If you'd like to get in touch with Nick, you can reach him at 902-414-8566 or nicholas.davis@premiermortgages.ca. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach me at 902-220-7357 or jason@infinityrealestategroup.ca. Thanks again. Bye.